I come from a troubled past, the mind of a double standard. I write with the other hand. You might misunderstand it. Words of Miss Margaret Ann. She taught me cover family. Amongst
How y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
No father figure, no other brothers. The only one became the one and
Yeah,
only.
I am your host, Hash Potent the One. Alongside me is my brother Ken Gamboa.
Good evening, y'all. How y'all
Good
doing today?
afternoon.
I
Good
hope y'all doing well.
Definitely. Ken, how you doing first, my dude?
I'm doing good. You know, it's nice and warm in this room. So,
It's an understatement.
if you always wanted like a cheap version of a sauna, this
Right.
studio is it right here. No gym membership needed.
The boy said sauna. You really meant a sauna. Yeah.
Sauna.
It's hot. Yeah, it's that hot. Yeah.
No, that's exactly what I meant.
But, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to thank you guys for joining us. You are now tuned in to the MenOvHonor Podcast. And right before we start, you know what I'm saying? Before me, there was none. After me, there will be many. Hate, jealousy, and envy are amongst the few. But for all that, we got remedy.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
I just wanted to hit that button. Yeah, and this afternoon, man, we got a remarkable individual, in my opinion. As you guys know, the mission of our show is to uplift men, you know, to shed light on, you know, good brothers that are role models, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times, you know, you have a lot of young brothers out here that don't have role models, you know what I'm saying? They just don't have, you know, guys to look up to in their household. You know, maybe the father is absent, you know, for whatever reason. I just wanted to shed light on brothers that are in position, you know what I'm saying, and willing to take lead, you know what I'm saying. Your inspiration may not come from someone in your household, you know, it could come from anywhere, you know what I'm saying. You guys, we was talking earlier today, our access to resources now compared to where it was years ago is tremendous, you know what I'm saying, and I don't think we take advantage of it enough. But before I get to rambling, I'd like to introduce, you know, this young man right here. I've been privileged to meet him, cut his hair a few times, and just talk with him and just realizing that this dude is definitely an asset to the show, and I had to have him here. Really quick, I'm not gonna go into, you know, too much detail. I'm gonna allow Anthony to do that. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome, good brother Anthony Shaw.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here. Glad to be part of the team.
Wait, where's his mic?
Yes,
Oh man, I'm
Oh,
hands free, baby. Check it out. Technology,
I'm like, wait.
magic.
Anthony special and privileged. Like
That's
that.
right. That's right. I don't sit still. That's the problem.
All right.
But,
All right,
yeah,
yes.
Anthony, go ahead, man.
Indeed. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Appreciate it.
Why don't you give us a little
Privileged
bit
to be
of
here.
background on yourself and what you're all about?
Yeah, man. So I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina, aka Vietnam. I grew up with. I was raised by a single father. I had a loving mother that they split custody, but at the end of the day, he did the day in, day outs for quite a while. I lived with my mom for a little while, joined the Navy, you know, ran a couple businesses while I was in the Navy, and then once I got out, started off at good old Jacksonville University in Jacksonville. That's where
Shout
I
out
went
to
in.
Jacksonville.
There you go, Duval. Yeah, man. So they let me in with a 1.9 GPA on academic probation.
Wow.
That's a story in itself, but
Yes.
went there for 2 years, got my grades up, went to UCF, got a really good job with Siemens as a power plant engineer, and then went to Duke, got my MBA, and used all that to start Pro Generation Energy. Pro Generation Energy has been in business for 6 years.
6 years.
Just such a blessing there, and our calling is very simple. It's improving life. So we focus on renewable energies and efficiencies to obviously help out with the environment, but first and foremost to also help our customers run sustainable businesses. By lowering their cost of energy, one of the number one things that you see, you have to pay regardless, right? Regardless of whether or not there's customers coming in the door, you got to pay your light bill.
That's right.
So by lowering that, we help the customer become more sustainable. Meanwhile, we're helping the environment. And then with our profit distributions, we give 50% of that away to suicide awareness prevention and other mental health opportunities. So giving back to the community is a really big part. Matter of fact, it's quite frankly the only reason I do what I do.
True.
As you guys know, being an entrepreneur is extremely difficult. It is a grind, and when on those days where it's tough, having that knowing why we're doing it makes it so much easier. So that's high level, kind of who I am, where I'm from.
And it's some very important what you're doing, Anthony, because on the Men of Honor podcast here, we try to have an outlet to be able to inspire other individuals, other men more specifically, to be able to find their purpose in life and be able to, be courageous enough and be determined enough to go through the hards, and be away, kind of overcome the distractions and so forth, and have that will and determination and vision to be able to get what they want to get. And it's a blessing to be here with you, and you're a perfect example of, maybe you wouldn't determine yourself a perfect individual, and I think we all have flaws.
Yeah, that's right. Hold on a second. Don't let that get out. I'm not trying to live up to that.
We all have flaws, but at the same time, when it comes to your career and your achievements, you are a perfect example of what it is to be a man of honor. Ain't that right,
Definitely,
Ash?
definitely.
So I wanted to go back to the beginning with you. Growing up in your hometown, what was life like as a child?
Man, so I don't really talk about this much, but I grew up in the perfect opportunity to have it easy, but for whatever reason, my life just wasn't easy. So I was diagnosed with several mental health issues at a young age. I was diagnosed, or before we had mental health, I was just emotionally impaired, right? I was one of the bad kids. They put me in the bad kid class. And so I was actually kicked out of England at about the age of about 9, 10 years old. I was pretty young.
Out of a country?
I was kicked out of a country, yeah. I ran away from home one time, and I hid behind the house next to me. Very long story made short. In England, this was before we had Amber Alert and whatnot over here. They take that stuff seriously. They thought I got kidnapped.
Wow.
So I was, my parents were there with the military. We were on that kind of a visa. After everything went down, they had, activated the whole system to find a kidnapped child, found out that I was behind the next house over, right? Wow. So that didn't look good.
How long were you hiding?
I was at least 4 hours, right about enough time to get hungry. Okay. Really is, that's how children run away, right? Like, I got to rethink this. So I went home, and sure enough, it was a lot bigger deal than I could have ever imagined. And so the military, especially with my emotionally impaired background, the military said that my family could no longer serve overseas for that stint. And they sent me what they call medevac back to Fayetteville, North Carolina, which was at the time, as a 10-year-old, the scariest thing you can go through, being told all of these things that you don't quite understand, being, removed from the only home you've really known. I was raised for the most part from 3 to about 10, maybe 11 in England. And that was my first kind of test of adversity, really just being uprooted and watching my whole family have to go through that. And, as a 10-year-old, knowing that, you don't want to blame a 10-year-old for something that maybe they can't control, but to know that it was my fault that we were having to go through all that. Correct. So that's really that move. If I look at my life and where my life really started, that move, that was probably the biggest obstacle and blessing I could have ever had. Because we moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a mental health facility there called the Rumbaugh Clinic. Back in the 80s, a lot of groundbreaking research there. And when I went there, they properly diagnosed me. They took what was just a bad kid and they put some names to it, which was really important because now as a kid, they were able to separate me from who I am, the soul of a person, from the conditions that I might be going through. And that was the first time that I really got exposure to what it was like to face an obstacle that was inside of me, but still something that could be overcome. I wasn't at my heart a bad person. I got to stop hitting this. I wasn't at my heart a bad kid. I was just going through some things. And it was in that environment that I think the first step towards where I am now. I had in that environment, there's not a lot of African Americans. And there was an African American young lady. I was having a bad day, and my counselor took me off to the side because I was inside of this clinic. She took me off to the side and let me run through some stuff. You know, I flipped over some mats and, you know, what angry kids do, right? And she said, did you get that out? And I was like, yeah, I feel better now. And she goes, all right, let me tell you something about life. You are an African-American male. Ain't nobody going to give you anything in life.
Absolutely.
You're going to have to learn to work just like everybody else in this world.
True, indeed.
And, you know, at 10, man, that's foundation time. You know what I mean? So on top of all the great stuff that my family poured into me and all that great stuff, when we talk about where I come from, that moment, that situation, that's kind of where it all started.
So growing up in your household, speak about your parents a little bit. Give us a little bit of background on who your father was, what did he do, and as well as your mother. Yeah,
really, really, really cool. So my parents, you know, decided they didn't like each other as much as they thought they would and went their separate ways. Happens to 60% of families in America.
And how old were you when they split?
I was about 12. So this is right after the move, right? Okay. So still tons of instability. And they went their separate ways. My mom came to Texas. All my exes live in Texas. Got a little bit too much to her, I think. And
Drake coming up.
Yeah, that's right. And then it was really cool because I had two parents that wanted me to live with them. Okay. And I think that that's such a blessing because you don't have that in certain homes, right? Like, don't get me wrong, I feel like I've overcome a lot, but I'm also real quick to give credence to just some luck, man, some blessings. Right. So both my parents wanted me, and blessing on top of blessing, my father said something that has stuck with me, and I don't know if I agree with it 100%, but I appreciate his heart. In an environment where, you know, back then, mom got the kids, period. That's the courts always, mom got the kids. Didn't matter. Mom could be almost a coke addict. It didn't matter. Mom got the kids, right? That's exactly right. My dad spent his last dime because he believed that only a man can raise a man. And so he fought tooth and nail.
That.
This is true. You know, well, to an extent.
To an extent.
Yes, I agree with that philosophy. What better way to understanding what manhood is than another man telling you about it? You know, I feel like a woman can have a conception of what manhood can be, but she can truly never understand what it is to be a man and what a man goes through and what it takes to just have a mentality of a man to be able to provide for a family or overcome, you know, whatever a man needs to overcome in life to reach that apex in his life to feel fulfilled.
And also, let me interject real quick. It's not to say a mom wouldn't do a remarkable job, you know what I'm saying? It's just that there's things that a young boy would really need to be shown directly from dad.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Something, it could be the mother can raise a child to be a great person, but there's going to be some components missing in there.
But so I grew up in that environment. So I tend to agree with you. Okay. My only pushback on that is there is a sensitivity and a soul to a woman that sometimes men miss.
I agree.
I can't begin to imagine what it's like to never experience a woman's love until you reach adulthood and you're talking about your first, you know, girlfriend, love, you know, soulmate. Just like you need to see your father's love and how a father takes care of his family and works the field and you know, fathers are normally the ones that put in those long hours. You got to see that, right? And moms do too, don't get me wrong. But, you know, just like a father's responsibility is to show a daughter how she's supposed to be loved by a man, it's also just as important for it to be the other way around. So I think either way you experience an obstacle if you aren't blessed enough to have both examples. They don't even have to be in the house. Right. But I was blessed to have both examples.
That's a blessing.
So, and again, you know, it's nice when you hear your dad say, "I'm here to raise my son."
It's a very comforting feeling for a young boy.
That's tough.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I think that it's safe to say that there should be a balance there. You know, because I was raised by my mom as well. You feel me?
Likewise.
And my dad wasn't there, but I don't really glorify that in a sense to put him down because I love him.
Sure.
You know, I'm pretty sure there was, you know, legit reasons in which why maybe things didn't work, and why I say that is because my relationship with my mom was not that good. And I lived with her, so I can understand. Okay, if he lived with this. You know what I'm saying? And let's be clear, she did a remarkable job because she's the one that raised me. Like you mentioned sensitivity, I think that's where I got my entire sensitivity from because she was right there to show a woman's perspective, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, I think it worked out because in his absence, I had role models. You know?
There it is. Yes, sir.
I had good brothers that was in the church, solid guys who was leaders. They had families. They took care of their families. You know
Absolutely.
They was clean dudes, and I was blessed to have these guys around.
Absolutely.
You know? So it wasn't like I didn't really miss much. I always had a desire to gravitate towards something honorable. Even when I was a kid, I like honor. You know, I like respect. I like something that stays leadership.
Yeah.
And these guys projected that, man. It helped. So what he wasn't able to do, and now I'm actually able to have a pretty good relationship with Dad. So it's cool. Shout out to all the fathers. I think that your role is crucial. You know what I'm saying? But I think we can all agree that there should be a balance. You know what I'm saying?
And with you growing up, not having both of your parents in the same household, what was that like? Was that hard for you? I mean, you moved away from England because you were dealing with all these mental health issues that you had to overcome, you know, and then 2 years later, you have the split happen in the household.
Yeah.
How do you what was that like, that process like?
Man, you know, so as a Christian, I'll never say that divorce is a solution, right? Not marrying the right person is probably the problem, right? But in the absence of perfect decision making all the time, I got to say that for me as a child, the divorce was difficult, but my parents were creating such a hostile environment in the house for everybody to grow up and operate in that I'm not glad they divorced, nor do I think it's God's will. But man, I sure got a lot less butt whoopings all of a sudden, right? People weren't as angry anymore. So for me, you know, I don't want to say I'm blessed that it went that way, but you know, it was what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. It's.
Do you feel that if I'm sorry, Hash.
No, go ahead.
Do you feel if what happened, and maybe you weren't in control of that situation, but you hadn't been kicked out of England and you wouldn't have had the issues that you did and you stayed, do you think anything would have changed?
No, I think it would have been, it probably, I mean, it was going to happen. Like, it was not a happy household, right? It just wasn't a great partnership. So I think eventually, or you're talking about the divorce, right?
The divorce itself.
You know, I think maybe it pushed it a little bit quicker, but eventually our tour in England was going to come to an end. You don't do your full military duty over there, except for very special circumstances. And eventually they were going to come back to the U.S. and eventually they're going to have to deal with all the distractions. You know, when you're in a foreign land, even though England's not that foreign, but for all intents and purposes, when you're in a foreign land, you know, you have to operate together, you know, to a certain degree. And I think that they did a great job from that. But, you know, that writing was probably on the wall My dad would probably disagree. My dad's he's that gentleman is not for divorce under any circumstances whatsoever, and you know, something that I learned. But I you know, some things just are.
And what did you learn from that experience, seeing your parents getting divorced at such a young age in your life?
Man, I wish I had learned more. I learned next to nothing. Again, for me, it was kind of a weight lifted off of the household, right? I think the number one thing for me is, I don't think I learned anything from that divorce. I learned more from my own divorce than I did from that divorce. Okay. Wow. And even like in my divorce, like, you know, my family's not perfect. They're going through situations every day, just like every family does. In my divorce, I learned more about my dad's current relationship with his wife than I did about that. I think maybe I was too young or whatever that may be, but no, I really don't think. I learned more. I don't think I'd have the relationship with my father if they had stayed together. I think my father would have kind of stayed in his role in the marriage, and my mom was pretty much the child raiser at that time. And in this case, he really, when they split and he took that stance that I'm going to raise my sons, he really became just an integral part of our life in a way that I don't think would have happened. And I think he would have stayed out of my mom's way.
Was your mother involved heavily in your life at this time, even though your father had primary custody of
you?
Oh,
yeah. So my mom, again, I had two very active parents. My mom was she was a driver of results, man. Like I get my no excuses attitude from her. So my mom started off with a high school education. She went into the military. She was one of the fastest promoted females in U.S. Air Force Europe. Wow. She won NC Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year, if I remember right, at least twice, and it might have been twice in a row.
Wow.
Something that doesn't happen. I may get that wrong, but she was a hard charger and a trendsetter. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of fueled my example of what was expected of me. Mm-hmm. Right? And I didn't even know it, right? I'm a kid. What do I know? But even going forward, she later went on and was a low-level executive for Hewlett-Packard at a time when women didn't move that quick up the corporate ranks. So she was always very, very involved. Like I said, when she was in the household, she was the primary child raiser. She did fight for custody. My dad ended up getting us, and at one point I did move to live with her, but yeah, I think that answers your question.
Yes.
So let me ask something real quick, Anthony. Share with us, or share with the listeners, your ethnic background. Like is
right.
Your mom and your dad?
Yeah, so my mom's white and my dad's black. My mom's from a little town in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and my dad's from Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And so once, your dad has full custody, and how many siblings do you have?
At the time, I had one.
You have one sibling. Okay.
Right.
So speak about growing up, how the household life changed when it was just you and your father and
Oh, man.
your brother.
So for those who have been raised by a single father, having three men in the house, one man, two boys, is probably not the best mix for a clean house, organization. I don't think we ever showed up to anything ever even close to on time.
A whole football locker.
It really was. It really was. I remember we would clear the pathway, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't dirty. There was just stuff, right? Boxes that needed to be sorted or whatever. Yeah. We would clear a pathway to play, right? It was a typical male-dominated house.
Cave. Yeah.
It was a cave. That's exactly right. It was a clean cave, but it was a cave, boy. And my dad did the best he could with two knot-headed little boys running around breaking everything to keep that thing together, especially on a limited income. He was, at that time, an E5 in the military. The military doesn't pay a whole lot, as you can imagine. So, with the divorce, even with child support, and my mom, obviously paid child support and did her best as well, but she was trying to support herself and so on and so forth. So no complaints there, but it was a really unique situation.
Man, it's crazy. I grew up in a household with 3 females. Well, yeah, 3. That's not good either.
Yeah. Yeah, you need to be able to let your hair down a little bit every now and again as a boy. I'm
talking about when he say, you know, I mean, amongst guys, I think, what's the worst in your opinion? We're going to disagree, we're going to fight?
Yeah, we're going to disagree. Maybe ego's in the way a little bit, you know.
Little bit.
You know, try to pump a chest out. I think that's the worst, you know.
That's about it.
Yeah.
With women, for some reason, it's a little different.
Emotional warfare.
Emotional
Psychological.
We got physical warfare.
Oh, yeah. Women
We're
are psychological.
It's hey,
boy. They'll mess you up psychologically, man.
True. And I ain't gonna lie, I would have rather be in a house with brothers than, and I love my peers, you know, but
yeah.
it was hell. It was not easy, bro. You feel me?
Yeah. I mean, I think both sides have their disadvantage. Again, you know, if you can have the best of both worlds, why not? But if you don't, you make do with what you can.
You do. I agree. Because now, I mean, it's horrible to say. I don't really have a relationship with him anymore. But I still love him. But I left off, you know, with the mindset that, I can agree that we may not see eye to eye.
Sure.
That's cool. I don't hate him. I don't wish any, bad will towards him. But it wasn't easy. It was difficult. And I think some of it stemmed from Dad not being there.
Yeah.
For them. Because while I was aspiring for a more honorable lifestyle, they was just left to figure it out and deal with emotional changes from one season to the next.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So we had quite a bit of falling outs, man, and I wish we didn't, but I'm still hopeful. I wouldn't say it's over, but it had reached its course. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
So, but it's I could only imagine what it would be like in a house with men.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But go ahead, Ken. Sorry, shit.
What about household life with your mother? Was it different from being with your father? You went back and forth between both of them.
Yeah.
So when you stayed with your mother, what was that like?
Man, again, two different worlds, right? My father, career military, raising two boys. My mom was more corporate, hard charger, shooting star type. Plus, female, male. It was just two different worlds. Both sides had their advantages and both sides had their disadvantages,
Okay.
right? You mentioned, when you're getting disciplined by a woman, it's much more down to parts of you that you, especially as a kid or especially a boy, you don't really want to deal with what were you thinking? You should want to do this, yada yada yada.
That's like reproach,
right?
Yeah,
right.
He wasn't good.
We don't want to deal with that.
Sure.
But to this day, I'm thankful for it. But then when I was with my dad, it was, you will do this because I'm 6'6", 240 pounds.
It wasn't.
Right.
He took it
Right?
and smooth out.
But I look at it now and I say, well, my ability to look inside of myself for the motivation to get things done, right? Why don't I want to do this, right? Looking in that accountability mirror. If you've never had to look inside yourself and say, wait a minute, why don't I want to do the dishes, right? Why don't I want to take a little bit of the load off my mom? You know what I mean? If you've never had to do that at a young age, you now will struggle to learn it and at the same time, I also think from my dad's point of view that there's a lot of cats out there running their mouth that forget that we live in a civilized society, but somebody might put hands on you one day and as an adult, that may be the end of your life.
That's very true.
Right? So I grew up with both reminders, right? Not only the personal responsibility, the internal discipline, but also hey, be careful because you might step out of line one day and have to face the repercussions. So again, two different worlds, but both good.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. It's such a beautiful thing when you have both parties. I'm just listening to it. I'm just like, I can only imagine.
Yeah. Well,
what it would be.
again, what I don't want to do is take any credit away from my father for, being there day in, day out. I'm thankful that my mom wanted to be, and it just didn't work out that way.
Okay.
But what I also don't want to do is glorify my own overcoming a divorce situation, because if I could, what I would encourage is folks now to not think, in today's day and age, we got this thing of, I can do it by myself. I can do it by myself. As a grown man speaking with the voice of a grown man, but from the heart of a child, I'm saying, hey, part of my success is that even though it was not perfect, I still had both trying. You know what I mean? And I think that's important for people to hear in a world of, oh, you don't need anybody. You should be able to handle stuff yourself, provide for your family yourself, yada, yada, yada. We were built for partnership. That's the way it's been since day one. Regardless of what religion or what evolution you believe in, we're pack animals, boy. And if you disrespect that, you're just making it harder on yourself. Like even like you said, you had your mom and your sisters, but you also had the church and the men in that church, right? Yeah. So your pack looked a little different, but you still had a pack, And I want to glorify that, not what I overcame based on the divorce,
Yeah, I mean honestly, now that I'm an adult, I could safely say that the hardship was beautiful.
Absolutely.
And what I mean by that, man, is I could only imagine if I didn't go through nothing. I probably would be a tad bit horrible, you know what I'm saying? So, to say the least. You know what I'm saying?
A tad bit horrible.
Yeah, because when I say that, I mean, I would have a misconception of what life is really about, you know what I'm saying? And I would be approaching it from a perspective of, I got this, as opposed to, you know what, let me see if I could learn something from everybody I come into contact with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And kind of be appreciated for every moment.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? That we hear. I wanted to ask, around what time, Anthony, did you decide, you know what, I want success, and I'm going to go after it?
Yeah. So my dad was in this thing. Everybody remembers Amway. Amway, the DeVos and Van Andel children, during the internet age, created this thing called Quickstar, which no longer exists. Okay. But they took Amway online. Is essentially they created a store, and you could sign up the same way you do Amway. You have a downline and an upline and all that great stuff. Multi-level marketing, right? Some people call it a pyramid scheme, but at the end of the day, it's multi-level marketing. And my dad got involved in that. And so at a young age, we're talking like 13, 14 years of age, I started learning about what dream building was. I started seeing guys driving Ferraris, guys, being able to, Gary Newell, man, Google this guy. He was, a mid-level roller in this organization, and he did it. He put everything into this business so that he could further his ministry. This residual income would free his time to go do what he really wanted to do, and he was our upline. So he was my dad's mentor. So 3 away, and of course my dad being 6'6", 240, basketball player. Gary Newell was a NFL player for the Rams. So they got along great just right off the bat. And so that being around those guys and seeing not only monetary success, but also spiritual success. Like if I had just seen the monetary success, like you said, I might not have turned out all that good, but I also saw the spiritual success and the tools that it took, the way these men thought about, hard work and taking risks and, through entrepreneurship, all the things you could do. And so watching my dad do that instilled 2 things in me. First of all, I learned about dream building. I learned about, reading books and using that for self-improvement. And I went to these seminars with him. He would take me to like one a year or whatever. And these things, if you've ever been to one of these conferences, you ever wonder why people get involved? These things are live, boy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm 14. Like, I've got no skepticism. I'm full in, right? Like, sign me up right now. I can't even legally join, but I'm in, right? And so that really started it. And then watching my dad grind through this business and take that risk and really build it on, he was doing it for me and my brother. Now, my dad wasn't successful at it, but what he did that was so amazing is he took that part of himself and put it into us. And so now, man, I might get a little bit choked up. Now we good. Now when my dad looks at my business and I hear his little, my dad's a very reserved man, very conservative, but I hear he'll drop something every now and again about it, right? And I know that for him, that's the fulfillment of his dream, right? No different than my brother, going on and getting his degree on a basketball scholarship, which is something my dad couldn't do. My dad poured in his boys himself there's actually a really great picture out there of it, of a father giving himself to his child in blocks, right? Yeah, it's over the internet. You can look for it, but that to me was my first real taste, and when I knew that's what I wanted to do. Now I thought that was what everybody was doing, to be honest with you, but yeah, that was
14. I would say, I want to say from as young as 10, all the way through 17, I want to say. Because by that time, we kind of have an idea.
Yeah.
But they say at around 10 is when a young boy makes a decision to, okay, I'm going to go this way.
Absolutely.
This is the way I'm going to go. And I think it's crucial because I was about 11, man, and I already had it in my mind, like I wanted to go the route that was good. I didn't want nothing to do with foolishness. I wanted to, follow the people that had some class. Because I'm from the hood, that's just, I'm from the bottom. But it doesn't mean that you can't aspire for greater change, even from that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anything that was commendable was attractive to me. I could have seen you and seen the way you dress, and I'd be like, man, this dude is doing something, as opposed to, looking at the dude on the corner and be like, all right, this looks like a section that I could get involved with. And I say that because my son is 11 now, and I remember one time he was staying with his mom, and his mom at the time was in a relationship with a dude who was gang affiliated. He was a blood, So, and not to put their business out there, but he used to sag his pants. You know what I'm saying? And I think he was asked, or he was asked something pertaining to why you don't wear your pants like this. I was nowhere around, but his reply was, my dad don't wear his pants like that.
Yeah, there you go.
And me and Anthony was talking, it's not this time, but the last time he came to the shop, on the intelligence of infants and how sharp they are.
Watch everything.
You feel me? And I'm gonna let Anthony
You mind, man? I get fired up about this one right here. So get this. So Duke University, it's the nature versus nurture, right? Are we born good or whatever? And everybody's always trying to figure this out. So Duke University, and if I get some of the facts wrong, I apologize, but you should be able to look up the general thing, all right? Yeah, so Duke University goes and does this study in like New Zealand of all places, right? Because apparently in New Zealand, to be a part of a study is like a really big deal. Yeah. And so they started this study on how to determine whether or not you're going to be successful, right? And the whole thing comes down to, it doesn't matter where your family's from or anything of that nature, it comes down to self-discipline.
Pay attention, y'all.
Right? Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't matter, single family, single parent, money, drug addicts, doesn't matter. Self-discipline, we've got it, all right? If your child exhibits a self-discipline at an early age, their chances for success, non-drug use, middle income, doesn't matter if they come from middle income, it goes through the roof, all right? So, okay, great. Well, then, I believe it was Duke on this one. I'm almost positive it was, but either way, the study's true. They did this study where they were trying to decide at what age kids choose between right and wrong, okay? Yeah. So they took these, I believe it was 1-year-olds. It might have been 2-year-olds, doesn't matter because the story gets crazy. Right. They took these 1-year-olds, can't really speak great English, right? Can't communicate. And they take 2 puppets, clear box, toy inside. One puppet is trying to open the box, right? Just basic hand puppets, nothing exciting. Trying to open up the box. The other puppet helps open the box. Right. The puppet gets the toy, he's happy. Then they present the 2 puppets to the 1-year-old, all right? The statistics showed that the 1-year-old, you can only have 1 toy, will choose the toy that was helping the other puppet get into the box.
Amazing.
Right? Okay, great. So then they do another test, same age. One puppet's trying to get in. The other puppet, right as he's about to get that thing open and get to the toy, the other puppet slams it closed. Okay? Then they present the two puppets to the child. Statistically correlated, regression analysis, these children react violently to the bad puppet.
Wow.
They will not accept tears, acting out, the whole nine. So like, wow, this is no dispute. This 1-year-old, this 2-year-old maybe, is making a choice that the bad puppet is bad, okay? Yeah. It's that same child has also made the choice that if I have to choose between the one that was trying to get in and the one that helped, I kind of want the one that helped, right? Yes. Not as strong, but still there. Right. They're like, all right, well, this is so conclusive. How low can we go? They do this all the way down the chain to 1-month-olds. At 1 month, they're running the same test, and the child is reacting violently to the bad puppet. So when you have abuse in your house, when you have raised voices in your house, when you've got gang violence around your house, you know, that carries. That child is carrying that. And so, you know, now you got a child that's 8 years old that's prone to violence, and you don't know why.
You don't know why. How?
Right?
Yeah, how? And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to add to that story. I have a 5-year-old son as well. Me, my wife, and the kids went to College Station for an event called Santa's Wonderland. It happens once a year. Honestly, man, I don't know what the ethnic background population of College Station is, but I would imagine it's predominantly white. So we go out there, we don't know nobody out there. We just went out there to be a part of the event. And this was so beautiful to me because at the time Brandon was 3. I believe he was 3. We were in line waiting to get on one of those roller coasters. And it's another little girl, same age. She's white as her. She's white. And they see each other and instantly gelled. It was weird. I'm talking about, we had to take a picture because they were so cute. They put their arms around each other and they hugged. What I'm saying is, a lot of time, you know, in our society today, we deal with division. There's segregation going on. There's racism going on. In plain sight. You know what I'm saying? Some people will argue that it doesn't exist. It still goes on. You know what I'm saying? But in relation to what you were sharing, Anthony, these kids innocently, they was created to love. They don't know anything about color differences. They don't know about sides. They don't know nothing about where you from and where I'm from. They just see each other and they just, love brings them together. It's a beauty in their innocence that joins them. That is unbelievable. So now, that's awesome. You know, if you were to be, you know, racist in any way, what do you do when you see your son or your daughter mixing? You know what I'm saying? As they should. It's not a, you know, they make it to be like this shouldn't be this way. This is how God created us. You feel what I'm saying? So, you know, it's amazing. I wasn't surprised when we talked and he shared that what is it called, like a test, right?
Yeah, well, it's a statistical test with you know, different types of but regression analysis is the one where you try to see if it was just a fluke. Is essentially long story made short, and there is no fluke. They are, but you know, and it's funny that you say that. So we often think about it from the African American point of view when we think about racism, right? Okay. And you know, obviously I've experienced racism. My family's experienced racism because I got, you know, a white mother and she did not have a great happy-go-lucky welcoming into Fayetteville, North Carolina as a white woman married to a black man in the 80s. All right. We were supposed to drive from North Dakota down to Disney World, and because people did that back then, they drove across the country to get to Disney World, but we didn't because there was some stuff going on, and I was young in Georgia where interracial couples were being harassed by the police. So we didn't make that trip. So I grew up in it. You know, it is right. It is what it is. But one of the things, regardless of that, regardless of my background or regardless of what we're currently dealing with today, you know, I feel a certain amount of sympathy based on what we're talking about right now, for people who are racist, black, white, yellow, Chinese.
Yeah.
Because if what we know to be true is true, I wonder what happened to them for them to be racist.
True indeed.
What neighborhood were they kept out of as an 8-year-old? What bully took advantage of them as a 6-year-old? Where that dude, and I'm going to call it out plain, that dude's sitting there like, I don't like black people anymore, right? What home environment did they grow up in where their parents were feeding them that instead of feeding them positivity and love and all that other great stuff that helps you be successful and, quite frankly, raise your earning income, your earning potential over your life? Because if you're racist, our community spends money just like anyone else, right? So I feel not empathy. Don't get me wrong, I don't feel empathy.
I don't.
But based on what you just experienced, that if that child later on goes to learn racism, I feel sympathy for what that child has to go through for the rest of their life, black or white.
True indeed, because, and just for the record, the mother of that little girl, we actually became friends.
Outstanding.
She wasn't racist, and see, she didn't show us that. She follows me on my page. She's gonna see this video too.
Just so we're clear.
Just so we're clear.
That's right. Hey, Mom.
Her name is Amory. I don't want to get the name mixed up. I think it's Amory. And to be honest with you, I'm colorblind. I don't give a crap about. I wasn't raised this way. So if I meet you, I embrace you with a genuine, sense of love. It had no motive to it, and as when you meet me, you could determine. When I meet someone, I could determine right away. Okay, this is sensitive. We got barriers here. You know what I mean? We can't talk about this, or we can't go here because this might touch a nerve. But love has no boundaries. I mean, true, clean love. I believe it.
No, you're right.
It has no boundaries.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a description. It doesn't have a ethnic background. It doesn't know color. And I was happy that because I felt good that night. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't feel uncomfortable with them. But if you've ever been in these parts of town, you'd realize you can feel a sense of, all right, these people don't fool with black people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they're not scared to let you know that.
There's a certain place on I-10 going east. We ain't going to call it by name, but we all know you gas up before or you gas up afterwards, right? It just is what it is. It still exists.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, shout out to Anne-Marie. It was a pleasure to meet her and her little daughter. They're getting big. Now Brandon is 5. I think she's the same age. And I encourage the mesh. In my opinion, I think, white and black is a beautiful blend, to be honest with you. Now, some people might disagree, but when they have children, they have some of the most beautiful children. Not saying, that could spark up a whole issue.
Wait, first of all, I would like to 100% agree with you. Science and me have proven that is the most beautiful baby you can have. I mean, humble.
Interracial marriages with children with huge egos.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Hey, what's that dude name from The Young and the Restless? He had the bald head.
Yeah. I got called him for a season there because we all look alike. Every light-skinned dude. I've been called Shane Battier. I've been called Drake. I don't look like none of those individuals.
Yeah.
They're great guys, but it's a privilege to be compared. But
what do they
come
call
on.
them, Ken? There's a name for them they call them something babies. I forgot.
I don't know. I know in Colombia they call them mulattoes,
Mulattoes, yeah.
I've been compared to like a young Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, no doubt.
Nah, I can see that one. Hold on a second.
I've been called young Lawrence Fishburne, Boys in the Hood, Lawrence Fishburne. I've been called a B version of Michael B. Jordan.
B version? Come on, man. We're supposed to uplift people.
I'm just going to take whatever I get.
Hey, there you go. I don't care what they call me as long as they call me.
There you go.
I think Ken, in my opinion, he a fly dude.
There you go.
Thank
With
you,
intelligence, he got something on his mind.
Thank
you know
you,
what
thank
I'm
you.
saying?
I'm using my muscle.
Oh, there you go.
No doubt.
But talking about muscle, you went to Duke University, but not only did you go to Duke University, you were a Division I athlete as well. So talk about the athletics parts right now, and how important, I guess, developing yourself as a man and as a person coincided with being an athlete. Like, what did athletics teach you?
Man, I'm gonna blow your mind on this one.
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Bring it on.
Not as a walk-on. I made the pre-camp roster on a Division I 2A squad without ever playing organized football.
Man.
And
So you were just a freak of nature.
no, not even close. Not even close. The number one thing that I tell people all day long, and I've learned to keep it to myself unless asked, don't let any flipping thing stop you from what you want to do.
Right.
You got a dream, you turn it into a set of goals, you turn that into a set of plans. I decided I wanted to play Division I football. When I joined the military, so I wrestled in high school for like half a season, broke my thumb, quit. I joined the military, long story made short, found out I was just relatively athletic, all right? In the military, especially in the Navy, if you play on the Captain's Cup team, the base team, that becomes what we call your duty section. So your duty section, during your day, you have to, guard the base and clean and do this stuff, right? Long story made short. Well, if you're on the Captain's Cup team, you don't have to do that.
Right.
So I found out real quick how athletic I was because I tried out for everything: golf, softball, volleyball, football was my thing. So we're out there running.
Like he could run a sprint right now.
Well, anyway, so hey, because I tore my ACL and got back into shape. That's why I can run. Hey, when it gets taken away from you, that's when you're like, oh man, I got to stop skipping leg day. So anyway, so I played flag football for the Captain's Cup team. I went on, I took that, I was like, man, I really like this. So I went and played for a little team that I don't think exists anymore called the Virginia Beach Hurricanes. Okay, they're a semi-pro, pay-to-play team. Did okay with that. Not even great, didn't even do the whole season. But I got into my head that if I was going to go to college, I'd already decided to go to college, that I was going to play football in college.
Why football? Why not basketball? Or
Because I'm the shortest person in my family. This is a soft spot, all right? I don't want to hear this. I'm going to tell you this story, and we're not gonna dive into this. I'm the shortest person in my family. I hate basketball.
How
all right?
tall are you, Anthony?
I'm 6'2".
I'm 6'2". You the shortest person?
I'm 6'1 3/4".
Yo.
My mom was slight at her height, so she shrunk a little bit. But at her highest, my understanding is she was 6'2".
Wow.
My dad is 6'6". My brother is 6'5". My granddad was 6'6".
Right.
My grandmother is probably right around 6 foot, if not 6'1" herself.
Yeah,
She's probably about 5'10" now because she's a grandma.
Yeah.
My aunt Nisi, I know, has got to be at least 6 foot.
Wow.
Amazon.
Just tall, athletic, and all of them play basketball.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So right about the time I decided that I was athletic, my brother was about 6'3". And I just wasn't going to get dunked on by my brother. Like, we were never going to go and practice together like you see some brothers do, where they both go big. You know what I mean? Like the Curry brothers and whatnot. That wasn't going to be us. I'm not getting dunked on by my little brother. My little brother is 8 years younger than me and 6'5". We're just not playing basketball.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. So I play football. Plus, I've always been more aggressive. I've probably been the second most. My mom was extremely aggressive. I physically do not mind contact. Like, that's just...
Right.
And it's probably because I was 5'3" until I was my sophomore year in high school.
Yeah.
Contact was coming to me whether I liked it or not. All right, I was the first one they picked on. So I was always that way. So football fit well for me. And then on top of it, football is a real cerebral sport. There's a lot of cats out there that quite frankly can't read all that well. Right. But when they start talking about football, you see true intelligence comes through. And that is missed a lot of times because you hear these athletes talking, that's just a dumb guy who's got a lot of... Football is it's a chess game. There's 22 players on that field, and there's a slight move to the left or right, and that changes the entire play. And I love that. So I decided I wanted to go play, and that was my dream. I set a couple goals. First was to get my own workout going. I hit my goal for my own workout. And then I started looking for solutions, and sometimes you get lucky. So a guy, I won't mention his last name, but his first name's Andre. Unfortunately, he's gotten in a little trouble, so I'll leave his full name out of this. But Andre was a very, very fast human who taught very fast humans. Several of his students went on to be in the NFL. I'm not going to call them out by name, but they did very, very well. And so I happened to be coached for speed training by this guy. Pure accident. Was just looking for a speed coach, got one of the best in the business.
Right.
But again, the reason I get fired up about this, and the reason I there's people out there right now that have that thing, man, I'd love to do this. Stop saying, man, I'd love to do this.
Right.
And if I can walk on and be competitive with guys who have been doing this since they were, some of them 6 years old, right? You need a dream that turns into a goal and plans. And then somewhere along the way, if you're putting in the work, you will get lucky. It's just a matter of time, right? Whether or not you can withstand the amount of time that it takes to get lucky. Right. So anyway, he hooked me up. I got down to a 4.45 40. Got picked up by Jacksonville University to play free safety at first. Showed up at just for fun, showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning at 196 pounds. The most in shape I've ever been. They have this drill that you have to run on the first day. 16 110-yard sprints in under 15 seconds.
Man,
you have 45 seconds to rest in between them.
Wow.
Crushed it, no problem. Flew right through that. I was ready to go, boy.
Wow.
So this is 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm 6'2" in a land without a lot of 6'2" dudes playing DB. Defensive back. Man, I'm ready. And these cats start coming in, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, man, I can beat him. Oh, he ain't got nothing, man. Look at those calves. He ain't got nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't know that the starter showed up at 12. And so I rode the bench most of the time, but it doesn't matter. Like, I made the team. I realized my goal. And then, the end of that story that I think is also just as important is once I accomplished it, I realized that sometimes we get wrapped up in, I've got this. I got to hold on to it. I ended up letting it go, and step by step, I won't go into all the details, but because I let that go, another opportunity presented itself, which led all the way to my current business, one step at a time in a straight line. Okay. So just so grateful for that opportunity. But yeah, man, that Division I athlete, what that taught me was if I can do that, we sometimes are so limited by, I can't stop drinking, or I can't put away $5 a month, or I can't dig myself out of this hole I might be in with my family or my taxes or whatever it is. Man, and nobody knew. Nobody knew I'd never played before. I just showed up, right? And that to me, a lot of help along the way, some luck as it were, but man, that was really crazy for me. That was that moment where I remember the first game I was sitting on the sidelines going, how am I here right now? Like, how is this? Yeah, because there were cats out there, man. We had a guy 5'10" that could dunk a basketball in full football pads, including cleats. Wow. Right? So no traction.
Freaking
all right? Just free. And they started, by the way. They started. I got to play on scout team. All right? But just to be out there from scratch to on the field in under about 2 years, just incredible.
Do you feel for any male, any boy growing up, any man, that sports are necessary to teach them something?
Absolutely not.
Development?
No. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. No. I was also a national competitor for ROTC drill. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I wrestled a little bit. I did the book club thing, and we went on to win state or whatever the heck it was back then.
But it seemed like you were a jack of all trades, though. You not only had the book smart, but you had the physical aspect as well.
I had to be. Okay. I had to be because for me, first of all, I was small at first, so I wasn't a jack of all trades until I hit the military. Yeah. And in the military, you don't have a choice. You will run a mile and a half. Now, I'm motivatedly lazy like 90% of America. If you tell me that when I'm done, I can get that thing done in 9 minutes and 15 seconds. All right? Yeah. But I needed that challenge. And the reason why I say no for sports is it doesn't matter what you do. There's a great line in a movie, I think it's Gattaca or something like that. No, it's not Gattaca. But anyway, it's this movie where there's a religious character and he's on his deathbed. and the hero shows up to save him or whatever, and he's going to die anyway. And the guy goes, well, I don't believe in the God you believe in. And he goes, I don't care what you believe in, just believe.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what your goal is. If at some point in your formative youth or at any point in your life, if you can set a goal, whether it be book club, football, anything.
Yep.
If you will just commit to that one goal, it becomes momentum and it becomes contagious. Because one of the things I tell every employee that works for me, every colleague, every business partner I have, anybody who's ever given me a chance, $1 or anything, is that I get so fired up, I'm about to cuss. I am addicted to flipping winning.
Yeah.
There is nothing in this world that feels better than winning, and it makes losing worth it. Because every time I lose, I learn something, and I'm going to come back,
Sounds like
and I'm
Michael
going to
Jordan.
win again.
Sounds like Michael Jordan.
Hey, man,
Michael Jordan mentality.
winning begats winning. It's just, if you can just get one win in your life and feel, there's cats out there that have never been given a chance.
Yeah.
They've never taken the chance. You're an adult, go take a chance, right? But as a kid, there's kids that won't get a chance until their adulthood to win. That's why organizations like the Boys and Girls Club and organized youth sports, especially ones that have access for children who are underprivileged that maybe not be able to afford equipment and whatnot. Those programs are so important to our communities because they give kids a chance to understand what it's like to put in hard work, sometimes fail, and get that one win, right? I heard one time that you will only win 4% of your life, no matter how good you are.
Wow.
4% of your life. And those 4% wins are what fuels you towards success for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Right? Think about that. That's like 16 days a year that you experience success out of 365.
365.
Just like in sales, they tell you want to go for, they get ridiculous with this, but they say, I think it's like 10 no's for 1 yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Nah. Here's what's crazy.
That's disheartening. Like
Never getting the yes because you were afraid of the no's.
Man.
That's what's crazy. What's crazy is never getting to the yes because you were afraid of the no's.
True.
You're sitting on your couch right now, and no disrespect to this, right? Because everybody needs to rest at some point in their life. You're sitting on your couch right now, and there's a yes out there that you really need in your life. That pay raise, that new job opportunity, or whatever it is. Not getting that yes, that's the real travesty.
That's the problem.
That's crazy to me.
And honestly, once we get past the fear of being rejected, it's over.
But I feel like that's where the discipline comes in, right? To be able to be disciplined enough to be emotionally controlled, to not give in to the thoughts of, oh, I'm not good enough. You know what? Maybe this isn't for me. You know, maybe this is for somebody else. Maybe I need to go into, stay on the same path. That's where the discipline comes in. But so as far as your experience and your level of discipline, Anthony, how important was discipline, and more importantly, how did you go about cultivating discipline?
I want to get to that, but you asked me two questions and it just clicked for me.
Yeah.
So I go and I do this football thing, right? And I get in and whatever. Many years later, I've graduated from undergrad, UCF, right? Mind you, I started off college with a 1.9, graduated with a 3.5. All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I go become a field engineer, which I'm not supposed to be able to do because I have a BSBA, not the typical engineering degree they're looking for.
Right.
Still made it in. And I'm looking at what my next step is, right? Because now I'm addicted to women. I'm a dog that's tasted chicken, boy. Like, let's go. What's the next thing we're going to do? And I'm looking at graduate schools. To this Duke question you asked me. I'm looking at graduate schools. And, I'm trying to decide, should I go to, something local, whatever. And there's this program at Duke University. They don't have it anymore, called the Cross-Continental MBA. It's 2 weeks. You can do it while working. It's 2 weeks in a foreign country, 6 weeks learning from home. India, St. Petersburg, Russia, Shanghai, China. There's one other one that I forget. Did I say New Delhi, India?
Yes, you did. You said India, but not New Delhi.
Dubai, India, Dubai, China, St. Petersburg, Russia. Those are 4, and then you do 2 residencies at Duke.
Okay.
One of the top 5 business schools in the country. And I'm thinking about applying, and I'm just like, man, I don't know. There's some really smart cats that go there, right? There's some cats with some really good backgrounds that go there.
You're
right?
intimidated
Much
already.
so, I'm so intimidated, and I'm working through my GMAT. Well, maybe if I can just get a good enough GMAT, maybe then I'll apply, and all this other great stuff. And I'm not really excited about my GMAT because part of having big goals is it forces you into big actions, right? So I haven't really committed to Duke yet, so I really haven't committed to my GMAT. And I'm sitting there one day, and I'm stressing over it, man. Like I'm just in deep thought, almost meditation. And this thought comes to me just as clear as we're talking right now. I think it's spiritual, but to each their own. And it said, "Why do you keep limiting me? Why do you keep limiting me?" So I was like, "All right, fine. I'll listen to this little voice inside of my head, and I'm going to take this chance." So I applied to Duke with the expectation that I would get rejected, but I would learn all the guidance counselors and whatnot, and then next year I'd apply with a better package once I knew what they were rejecting me for. I'd go fix it, and then maybe take some extra courses or do something like that.
So you were expecting to come back.
I was already planning for the comeback.
Wow.
Waste of time because I got in there on my first try. Again, to that point, same thing with football, etc. I am nothing special. I probably had the lowest GMAT score they accepted that year. I had a 1.9 GPA in high school going into college and had never played football. People just don't understand. I am nothing special. There are things that you can get done right now that the only thing that's stopping you is, if I just had a higher GMAT score, or if I just had a couple more dollars, or whatever it is. Why are you limiting yourself, man? Go get it. Yep. So sorry to interrupt. Your question was a good one on that self-discipline, but that it's just a continuation. Once I got used to going after the big thing, and let me give credit where credit is due. I saw my dad come home after 14-hour days, because he was in the military, right? So they run military drills and whatnot. 14-hour days plus working on his business plus taking two boys. He was so exhausted that he was literally shaking. He could not get into bed. He just laid down on the ground and went to sleep. That's what I said. So I don't want to take a whole bunch of credit for this, right? I want to, give credit where credit is due. I was blessed to have that example. But at the end of the day, when I'm looking at other people, I'm saying, man, I got sympathy for you, but I don't have empathy.
No,
I don't.
So,
sorry about that.
No, go ahead, Ash, please.
What I wanted you to share with the people, how old were you when you actually went into the military?
Oh, I went straight out of high school. So I got into, it's funny, I applied to Shaw University. My last name's Shaw. I applied, it was for fun. I got in.
He already had his own university.
Yeah. Well, I contributed no money to it and didn't end up going. So I got accepted, which was really nice of them. But I'm like, man, I have a 1.9 GPA. I can't go spend because I didn't get a scholarship, obviously. Right? There's no scholarship for that kid. And I didn't want to spend my dad's money like that. Plus, I'd gotten into a specialized program in the Navy. So my whole goal was to go into the Navy, get that discipline that I knew I was lacking. I was already coming off a great base because I was in ROTC through all of high school and really into it. So I was, a national competitor. I was ranked 6th in the nation, 16th in the nation, 6th in the nation. And then I believe I would have been ranked 1st in the nation, but I never made it to nationals that year. But I'd won everything before that. So I was already on that path. So I went in the military just to make sure that so the goal was always to do 4 years and get out. Okay. Plus they gave me nuclear engineering as my enlisted job. So there just was no reason for me not to go into the military. So I went straight in.
Now you said that you were just checking to get that discipline that you didn't have. Now what was it that you were missing prior to getting into the military?
Man, that's a good question. I hadn't felt, I think it's 2 parts. I hadn't really experienced failure the way that I needed to. I've experienced struggle, but not failure. But I also, looking back, at the time I didn't know this, I hadn't experienced success. So to touch on some stuff that I've already told about, when I was in boot camp, I went to boot camp. I was fired up, ready to go. I'm prior ROTC, national competitor. We're going to rock boot camp. I prepared for boot camp based on what I saw the Marines do.
Okay.
The Navy is not the Marines. Like, I went into the Navy able to do like 112 push-ups. 112 sit-ups, 72 push-ups. Like, I was running the 1.5 miles in like 10 minutes and 5 seconds. This is before boot camp, right? So then you get into boot camp where you're doing this every day. You're getting, you get punished with push-ups and whatnot. So I'm just getting stronger. And really quickly, I was made the physical training petty officer as part of my training group.
Yeah.
That was the first time I'd ever been recognized for being physically capable. Like, I just didn't know that was a thing that I had. I went into the Presidential Guard, where I became basically a master of ceremonies. It's a bosun's mate, but I became a master of ceremonies where I was in charge of these ceremonies honoring the president or, Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, Secretary of the Navy, like really big. I worked at the Pentagon. Again, it's success.
Was that like promotions, like that you got quickly?
Specialized training. You have to apply for these types of programs and get accepted and all that great stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was more just without those moments of, hey, and in the military, it's, hey, you're good at this, here's some more work, right? But without those moments of recognition, because I didn't get that. I was the problem child growing up. I was, the windows on my high school, Terry Sanford, now don't open all the way because I went out of them one day, right? Being the bad kid growing up and then being in this situation where, I'm being recognized for good stuff. And the final light to the fire was, and I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, I was in training to become an aviation electrician. I'm halfway through this school. Because I went and did some other things before the training, I have time in service. So they let me take the test. In the Navy, you don't have to go to school to get the next rank.
Right.
It's just it's a privilege. I'm in the school, haven't finished the school, taken the test, and passed the test. So I got my next rank before I even finished the school.
Wow.
Well, you also get paid more.
Wow. Okay.
And again, I'm embarrassed to admit this, but hey, I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in Pensacola, Florida.
Man.
That extra $50 buys a lot more beer, right? Or at least better beer. So for me, it really clicked. I was like, wait a minute. All right. So I have these talents, right? I got this, when you're growing up and you're in trouble, you're like, he has so much potential, right?
Right.
So I'm starting to see my own capability if I would just apply myself. And now there's some reward on the other end. I'm just like, man, how do we get to the next rank? Talk to me real quick. How do we, right? So there was a little bit of carrot on the stick there.
Yeah.
Man,
Okay.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, please, Ash, please.
What I was trying to draw with, kind of get you to share your age, because you was, I want to say 16, 17 going out of high school into the military?
No, so I had just turned 19 going into the military.
Wow. Okay, that's young.
Yeah, so I got rolled back in school, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. My birthday is in June, and that's, for most schools, that's the cutoff, right?
Yeah.
So I was classed up early because I could read at the age of 3. My mom was aggressive about that.
Amazing.
So they classed me up early because they're like, oh, well, he can handle it. Emotionally and mentally, I just wasn't there. I was never there. When they rolled me back, it put me at the level with my current peers. Best thing that ever happened to me. I would not have graduated high school. I would have dropped out. I had another friend that ended up dropping out.
Wow.
I would have been right there with him. Right there with him. They hadn't rolled me back. So I went into the military at 19.
And so fast forward from, 19 in the military, around what age did you start your business?
Yeah, so I started my business, my first business, real business. Well, so my first real business I tell people about is Happy Acres.
Yeah.
Okay, so I see where you're going with this. When I was 16 and a half, I started Happy Acres lawn care company or landscaping.
Okay.
I woke up one day in February and decided I was going to create a business with a set of customers. I was going to develop a customer base, and then I was going to sell that customer base at the end of summer. I was going to work it till the end of summer and sell that customer base to a bigger landscaping company, because I'm just a kid in high school. Like I can't do this all the time.
Yeah.
So I created this plan, and to this day, it's the most successful business I think I've ever had, because I literally started with a plan, and for entrepreneurs, it's all about the exit, right?
Yeah.
Whether that be the company buying your shares back, or another guy coming in and buying your company, or whatever it may be. A successful exit is what we want. I did that at like 17 on accident, and have not done that to that degree of success since. Funny how children seem to just naturally have
Right.
So yeah, my first business was at 17. We did it for the summer. By the end of the summer, we were doing full-on land. We weren't just cutting lawns. We started off cutting lawns. We were doing full-on landscaping we had a plumber's license. I didn't have a driver's license. We had a plumber's license. We were doing sprinkler systems and all sorts of stuff. And at the end of the summer, we sold the customer base.
Wow.
It was like for $2,000, but for a 17-year-old at that time, I was a zillionaire, man. Like I was gonna go on limo rides, and homecoming was paid for cash.
And me, Mike Tyson, and all of it. Yes.
Buy me a tiger.
Hollywood.
That's right.
Please.
No, go
I
ahead,
was just
Ken.
gonna ask you this. Obviously, you're very well prepared man, intellectually. You have a good background in education.
Sure.
Now, for an entrepreneur, anybody aspiring to be an entrepreneur, maybe somebody probably doesn't have the funds, to go to a university and so forth. In your opinion, is it necessary to have a proper education, like a university degree, a bachelor's degree, to be quote unquote successful in life? And in the entrepreneur field.
There's a gentleman that hopefully I'm going to get a copy of this. I'm going to send this out to him. I believe he goes by the One-Legged Beast, and I follow him on Instagram.
Sounds terrifying.
You don't have to have two legs to do a lift, but it sure helps if you do.
Right.
It should not be an excuse if you only have one leg. And there's a gentleman on Instagram right now that is just crushing the game on one leg. Right.
Let's look him up.
And so, I think it's here. Let me pull him up. So to answer that question, the first thing that I would say is, no, it is not a requirement.
Okay.
The first thing that I would say, and this is to all the parents out there, is what helped me make it through was my mom drilled into my head that I 100% would learn how to read.
Reading.
My ability to read and reading comprehension is by far the number one thing I have, because I don't have to go to school to learn something.
Right.
I learned solar by reading. I learned sales by reading. I learned, right now, my business is at a point where it's growing. So I'm reading Scaling Up, right? The Rockefeller Habits.
Right.
I'm not in a class learning, paying, high degree money. I picked up a book for $14.95, and we're going to figure this thing out. All right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I would say.
Right.
But then I would say, I had my second business was, I joined my dad's Quick Start business. My third business was Vision Estates.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing about Vision Estates was that at one point I had $40 million under my control in assets.
Wow.
Right? No college education.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
My credit really wasn't all that great, right? We just created a business plan that worked. That business, when the market turned in 2006, 2007, just like a lot of people, my business went right down the drain.
Yeah.
I had already had the backup plan of, if everything went south, I would just go hide in school until my credit was better. All right?
Wow.
Because a lot of this was on my credit. I got into Jacksonville University, as we already talked about. When I went to UCF, one of the classes you have to take as a business major is finance. In finance, they teach you all sorts of different methodologies for, analysis, et cetera, IRR, NPV, all this great stuff. But there's a lot of ways you can teach this stuff. Again, to that point, you don't have to go to school to learn this. This specific instructor, her entire book, praise God, was based on real estate. So I'm sitting in this class. Mind you, 2 years before that, I thought I was never going to have to go to school. I was going to go buy me a G6, right? Like this was going to be amazing. Once I liquidated these assets, right? The pixie dust, fairy money, right? Not really, the net worth, right? Type stuff. So I'm sitting there, I'm learning about leveraging. I'm learning about debt to income ratios and debt service coverage and all this great stuff.
Reading.
Right? And no, you're right. I don't have to go get a degree to learn that stuff, but it really helped to be in that classroom at that point.
True.
And then the two other things that a degree will do for you, if you take on the challenge, is it will give you an environment to change the way that you think.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So you hear people say that they're street smart, and I respect that. I got an MBA and didn't learn anything that they taught me until 6 years later after I had experienced, and I look back on my MBA and go, that's what they were trying to tell me, right? So street smarts is so important, but the book smarts combined with the street smarts, now you're unstoppable. Now, do you have to go to university? To your question, do you have to go to university for that? No, okay? But it helps. The other thing about universities is that universities are not a cakewalk. You will be presented with a set of challenges that, quite frankly, I, as an employer, I look for.
Right.
I can't tell you how many incredibly intelligent, street smart people I've met that are afraid to have their work reviewed and graded. Well, you work for me. My job is to grade your work. Right. I want you to get all A's because that's what affects my bottom line. But sometimes you get a B. Hey, this is really good, and I've seen people just crumble. You will get a B in school unless you're just one of those guys, all right? And God bless them, okay? And at that point, you're going to have to make a choice whether or not you let it crumble or whether or not you accept.
Yep.
In that moment, you'll have to ask yourself a question. Did I give it all I had? And you're going to have to answer why you did or didn't. If you did, great, pat yourself on the back, you move on. If you didn't, you can also do this beautiful thing of making a choice. Because for me, I was in a fraternity, both a social and a business fraternity. I had other interests. I played, intramural sports. I chose that sometimes I was going to get a B because I wanted the full college experience. Calculus 3 is just not real math. Like they're just making up stuff at a certain point. I'm not going to get an A in that class and continue all the other stuff that I was doing. So in that environment, in a safe, controlled environment, you really get some experiences that you might not get outside. Again, you don't have to have those, right? Just like there's some guys out there with several commas and zeros in their bank account that have 0 street smarts, right? But it sure as heck helps. So that's my long answer to a very simple question.
And from your experience, you being a business owner and an employer as well, in essence, if somebody's capable without the proper education, do they still, if they're able to do the job efficiently, how competitive can they be with somebody who has that background in education?
100% competitive. They're just going to have a ceiling.
Okay.
Because at some point, that person's going to catch up with the street smarts, right? If that person with the book smarts has enough time, they will, and motivation and hard work and all that other great stuff, self-discipline, experience, they're going to get the experience.
They're going to get to it. You're right.
And so that's where you see a lot of people at the end of their career struggle, and they're, I'm making up numbers now, but in their early 50s, they start to hit that glass ceiling.
Yep.
And you see them go back to school. There's lots of great online schools that cater to just that. University of Phoenix being one of them, to name drop, right?
I went to University of Phoenix.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? Especially if you've already got the experience.
Right.
I got to go learn debits and credits from somewhere. I don't have to get that from some highbrow university, right? That's right. Heck, all of my finance classes at Duke University for this one instructor were on YouTube. You just had to know where to look. It might help to have the instructor to help explain some of this stuff because some of it was pretty complicated. But at the end of the day, if you are, talent will always rise to the top. You just might hit a ceiling on your way up.
Man, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad Ken asked that question because what we're not trying to say here is that it's not of essential value for you to get an education.
It's not like, you don't have a degree, you ain't gonna be shit for the rest of your life.
Say it, yeah.
But like you say, in that sense, it does help to go ahead on and pursue what I got from school was it would not give you street sense, but it definitely prepares you to handle situations.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's more tools in your tool bag.
Hey, there it is.
Yes.
More tools in your tool bag.
And I didn't get to complete. That's one of my regrets. I always say that. I wish I would have went straight out of high school and went straight on campus, because I missed the campus life, bro. I
There it
could
is.
almost shed a tear when I
You
think
just
about.
wanted a party. That's what you.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm saying.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that.
No, but on a cool.
Yeah.
The campus life to me was the coolest thing on the world. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? You know, you was dealing with some people that had some sort of intelligence, even if they was playing around or they wasn't taking it serious. It still had the vibe of people that was aspiring to try something,
Yeah.
or attempt at an education.
Yeah.
And then you had fine girls everywhere. Shouts
There,
to all the girls.
she
on
said
the
shout.
campus.
I never got called a nerd in high school or in college.
Oh,
in college,
man.
I never got called a nerd in college. And I think that says something
Says
about
the
the
athletic
environment.
freak of nature.
Yeah, well,
Says the athletic.
well,
freak
I
in
might have also
Division
not
I
been.
football.
I might have also not been called a nerd because I didn't qualify. All right,
Right.
that might have been the other.
This dude was a smart job. You
No,
know?
no, it might not have been.
You can't mess with those. Those are the cream of the crop right there. You a jock and you smart, man. Nobody's messing with you,
I
man.
might have been missing one of those
Come on,
qualifications,
man.
possibly both. I don't know which one.
Look, check this out.
Yeah.
Let's give him the utmost props that he deserves. First of all, he's slender. Dude got impeccable pecs.
Man.
Hey,
Like
hey.
you see, like he been running all this.
Anthony's
Like,
still
Hey.
in his prime.
What had happened was
23,
what had happened was I
6'2".
6'2" now.
It's-
I'm
it's
5'11". You know, I'm like, damn. You know, I just one more inch. You know,
stop. No, jeans get harder to buy, man.
I'm telling you, man.
Good shape, still in good shape.
Yeah.
Anthony, how old are you right now, bro?
I'm 38.
No.
38. Okay.
Yeah.
38 years old.
30 years young.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about that, though, right? So what you're talking, and I appreciate the compliments, right? But man, if I can do anything in my life, again, my credo and the credo for my business is improving life, right? So if I can do anything, it doesn't matter what I look like, what I have, what I don't have, et cetera.
Yeah.
If I can't plant that seed, you know, and I'm just scattering seed as much as I can. I don't care where it lands. The Bible tells me he'll figure that out. But, you know, this time 6 months ago, I was topping out at about 215, right? I got a picture. I went on a motorcycle ride with my father, and he took a picture of me when I wasn't paying attention. You could see the tire around the midsection, right? And I'm not built to carry the tire, all right? Like I just don't look right. Like there's some dudes, they look big sexy. I just look like a pear, all right? So you know, and I was coming off an ACL tear, and I firmly believe the reason my ACL tore is because I wasn't taking care of my body, okay? And I made a choice that what success looks like for me is to take care of the body that I was given.
Yes, indeed.
If I hit 60 years old and I have $1 zillion, but my health is failing, that's not success.
That's 100% true.
I believe on a deathbed, people think about 4 things, and I might be wrong on this because I haven't died yet, all right?
Yeah.
The first one they think about is their health.
Yeah.
Why am I dying?
Right.
Okay? The next thing they think about is their family. The next thing they think about is their legacy. And I always forget what the 4th thing's thinking about, but we're talking about body right now, right?
Yeah.
And so that, they think about their faith, right? Where are they going next?
Yeah.
All right?
Yep.
So for me, those 4 things, success without those. So I appreciate the compliments or whatnot, but I want people to know that I am in the gym every week for 3 hours that week. I don't care when I do it. I don't care. I can go to the gym and just sit there. By the way, it's really awkward to go to the gym and just sit there.
You
You
don't
will
wanna do
pick up
that.
a weight. You will do something, all right?
Yeah.
But for the last 6 months specifically, I've been in the gym. Doesn't matter if I'm tired, 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever it is. I spent a little $20 and got me a gym membership to a gym that's across the entire country. So for my folks out there that are traveling, there's gyms out there. I'm not going to plug any of them. There's many of them that are all over the country. You can just drop in wherever you go, okay?
Yep.
This is about choices. And for me, I don't need to be praised, regarded, or rewarded. I just want, if God's going to put me in a position to be recognized and seen, you know, I am 6'2", I am pretty loud, right?
Right.
I want people to hear not only, oh, I'm in the gym 3 times a week, which ain't that much, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 1 time a week for 3 hours, right? We get it in any way we can, right? I don't want people to hear that. I want people to see that there's no difference between what I'm doing and what they're doing. There's some really motivational guys on Instagram right now that are putting in 20 hours a week into the gym and really getting it and all this other great stuff.
Yeah.
And that's fine. God bless them, but I want people to see an ordinary dude on 3 hours a week max, right? Treadmill, walking on a treadmill if I have to, whatever it is. And then, obviously not eating all the stuff that I want to eat, right?
True.
So no disrespect to anybody where they're at in their walk in life. I just want people to know that the things that you're complimenting me out, these are not genetics. Like genetics had me with a tire, 6 months ago. We got to get after these choices, man. That's self-discipline, like you said.
It goes back to the discipline. So
it goes back. Exactly.
That leads me to the next question that I got for you, Anthony, and that is there an excuse
we were just talking about that too.
Come on with it.
An excuse for not being where you want to be in life and not having what you want to have in life?
Yes.
For men, is there an excuse for such a position to be in?
Yes, there's only one excuse that I will accept. Mm-hmm. Only one excuse.
What's that?
If you tell me I'm just not there yet, okay?
What do you mean by that?
Success is when preparation meets luck, divided by time. Okay?
Yeah.
If the time factor's in your favor, it's going to happen a lot quicker. Okay? If it's not in your favor, it's going to take more time.
Right.
If you're getting divided by a 1, it's going to take all the success, all the preparation, all the hard work and luck you can gather. Okay?
Yeah.
Some of us, we're going to get that thing and it's just going to happen the first time. Okay? When I see people working towards a goal, especially in our microwave, iPhone, app-based reality.
Type of world.
And I'm not saying anything that you can't go Google a meme about, and there's like 18 memes out there right now. We're not dropping new knowledge here, right? We all know this, but maybe hearing somebody say it in a certain way with a certain tone on a certain night, it'll hit. Listen, whatever you're doing right now to proceed your goal, you may be doing it $1 at a time, you may be doing it $10 at a time, you may be doing it 1 hour at a time, you may be doing it 10 hours at a time. It does not matter as long as you continue to grind towards your goal.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So
right?
consistency is a must.
Yeah.
Man, yes, it helps.
It helps, okay.
Because I'm a big fan of the backslider, right? You will fall, you will stop working out or stop saving.
Yeah.
Maybe spend a little bit of those savings dollars. How quick you get back on the horse, that's failure. Learn the lesson, keep moving.
Yep.
So I even want to, because I think, it's the church effect, right? I commit 1 sin, so I don't go to church for the next 5 years.
Right. Conviction.
Right?
Yeah, conviction makes you do it. Yeah.
Right. So I want to get rid of that. While saying that, yes, consistency is a nice ingredient, boy. You get in there and work your way up that ladder 1 rung at a time, day after day after day, you're going to get there quicker.
It's proven to be one of the most efficient ways to see results. I mean,
Efficient,
no matter
absolutely. Absolutely.
And then how do you stay motivated, Anthony? What's the key to constant motivation? Because motivation comes and goes,
Absolutely.
Some people, they have a hard time being motivated. They give in under the slightest struggle. So what's the key to motivation?
First of all, I follow Jocko Willings. I follow David Goggins. I'm name dropping because these are dudes that I'd like to one day do a podcast with them, just like I'm doing with you fine, honorable gentlemen. I follow these guys, and they are motivated individuals, but I think we give motivation way too much credit.
All right.
That rah is fantastic the last mile of the run.
Yeah.
That rah is good the first mile of the run. But we're talking about a 100-mile race.
Yeah.
You need more than rah. You need drive. That step-for-step movement that's going to happen whether you're, man, let's go get this, or whether you're like, all right, it's been 6 months and I still have that extra pound, the extra 5 pounds that I'm trying to lose, right? Or whatever that goal may be. It's been 6 months and that stock hasn't lost me any money, but it hasn't really gained me any money yet either.
That's that give up point right there.
Right? So you got to have that drive, that consistency, like you said, to go day after day. But then there's another level below that that people miss. So everybody gets motivation. Most people get drive. But one day you will lose your drive, right? You will spend that savings dollar. You will miss that day at the gym. That's when self-discipline kicks in. The success that I have, with a ton of credit to those people who have given me hand ups, the success that I have has not come from the days where I was raw motivated. Some of it's come from the days that I was driven, but most of it has come from the days where I didn't want to show up. You know, one of the things about my story is my partner passed away in 2015 by suicide.
Sorry to hear it.
And there is no motivation or drive in that.
Right. True.
For me, I simply knew that there was an expectation that I would keep showing up until I couldn't show up anymore, right? And that for me, in that lowest moment, right? And sorry to take the mood of the room there, but at that level, that depth of despair, recovering from the tragic death of the business partner and still showing up to the office. Like, I got rid of that office. That's how. But for the meantime, we had an accountant that would show up to help us keep our books in order while we were recouping the company. There was no drive. There damn sure wasn't no motivation.
Naturally.
It was just discipline. I knew that this was what it was expected of me, so I showed up.
Fulfilled it. Honorable.
And that self-discipline, I don't even want to call it self-discipline, that discipline, you know, is probably, you know, 2 months later, you know, my business partner now, her father, said, hey, if you'll keep going, I'll support the company. And you need to commit to giving 50% of the business towards suicide awareness, prevention, mental health, specifically what is now known as the Erica Legacy Foundation, which does a lot of great work with Me to We. Look up both.
Okay.
But that moment doesn't happen, and that moment carried me through 3 more years of deep, dark stuff.
Yeah.
Right? That moment of somebody saying, "This is your why. Help other people not go through what you're going through." That doesn't happen if not for the discipline. If I had just laid down and quit.
Yep.
The discipline to keep showing up. And that discipline comes from watching my father struggle, watching my mother get her degree with 2 young kids, not us. She went and adopted a son and had a little girl. Watching just struggle after struggle from outside to inside. You know, having people tell me that I don't have any excuse to give up. Having people tell me that there's nothing given in this world, you got to earn it, all lead to this one. This is good stuff. This one moment where it all kind of comes together. You know, I don't like to lean on my own story too much. Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith is a real freaking story. And there's that moment where they offer him the job and you see the tears going, but nobody else in that room understood that this man wasn't drinking water. Yeah. This man was in a homeless shelter trying. None of that.
Of the fittest.
Right.
Survival of the fittest.
None of that happens unless he continues to show up against all odds. Yep. You know, he's not rah, you know, let me go get this money. I'm going to have a G6 and a profitable firm one day. He's just trying to provide for his family and live up to his dreams. That kind of consistent discipline, and then taking advantage of those drive days. And man, if you have a motivated day, excuse my language, don't fucking sleep. Right? So. Hey, you can sleep tomorrow when you're a little bit less motivated. On a motivated day, when the sun shines on your face, go work that field. You know what I mean? Right. You put all 3 of those together, and that's when you see these guys become Navy SEALs that can't swim. You see these guys go off and do just amazing things with absolutely nothing. You need all 3, but to your point, you've tiptoed on it a couple times. That discipline, find it.
I got to quote my man Mike Tyson.
Come on with it.
He has a little famous quote. He says, discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it.
Right.
You know,
That can be so hard.
and oh yeah, you know
So hard.
let me ask you, Anthony, how do you? Because I'm sure you've had your days where, like you said, you do what you have to do. You know, even though that drive's gone, even though that motivation ain't there. So how do you get through those periods of procrastination? You know, how do you overcome procrastination?
Yeah, so I'll even drop it a little bit deeper because I'm a big proponent for mental health. All right, so I deal with extreme anxiety. I have anxiety attacks. I also deal with suicide ideation, which means I am at times suicidal.
Yeah.
Wow.
So forget about a less motivated day. There's folks out there that are trying to accomplish something that are dealing with the same, if not worse, mental health issues that I am.
That's
and there's
right.
people that aren't dealing with those that are asking the same question. The answer is the same.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have a very strong why. And for me, part of my why is living up to everything that's been given to me. When I was honored as a 40 under 40 graduate, I had the absolute honor of having my father, my stepfather, who showed me what it's like to, my parents got divorced. So my stepfather was the first time I saw a man really love a woman in that was really close to me. And the way he treated my mom and held her on her dying day. I had him there. He showed me another side of manhood. My dad showed me a great side as well. And also my business partner, the same guy who said he'd support the company if I, committed to and gave me a reason to keep living, quite frankly.
Right.
So having those three guys pour into me, having the why and wanting to honor their sacrifices, their mentorship. My dad gave up a lot of his dreams to raise us boys. My stepfather treated us like I call him my stepfather so that we honor the fact that he didn't have to treat us like his own. And he does to this day. After I graduated high school, I didn't have a job. I went and lived with him for 6 months.
Right.
He fed me, clothed me. I'm not in any way related to him by blood. My mom had passed away at that point, and he took care of me just like any father would, and much love to that. And then, of course, my business partner. So not wanting to dishonor. I remember even before this business partner came in, his daughter was working with me, and he was also his business was our first client. We did some consulting work for him, and I just couldn't imagine showing up and explaining to him that I failed because I didn't work hard enough. Like I just couldn't imagine that. So that really fueled me.
Right.
But we progressed all the way through. So that was one thing. And then the thing that quite frankly motivated me on those days and kept me alive, right? In moments where I said, you know what, tonight's the night. Tonight's a dark night. I'm not gonna make it till the morning. Knowing that whether we make it there or not is irrelevant to me. Knowing that this company, this calling has the opportunity to affect at least one person, possibly 10 people,
Right.
thousands of people.
Right.
Yeah, that would be cool too.
That's right.
But to know that I have a calling that could benefit just one person, there is a voice that is inside of my head that kicks in when I need it most. And it very simply says, you're not done yet.
Right.
And that for me, whether it be improving myself, whether it be pouring into my company and the people that have chosen to work for me and with me and mentoring them or accepting mentorship from them, because sometimes I'm out of line.
Right.
The long hours, there was a time in the business where I was sleeping in the office.
Wow.
Our money had run out from our initial contribution, which I respect the heck out of, right? Strong, solid business decision. But I had a choice either to walk away from the company or keep going. This was after I'd already made the commitment. And I said, well, I got $5,000 left in the bank account. I get that we owe 30, but I have 5. I'm gonna show up and show up and show up until that 5's gone. And that was 3.5 years ago. And we're still showing up based on the simple idea that I am not done yet. So when I look at people that, and I'm not talking about rest. Even the Bible says we need that rest, right? That's a healthy, natural part of life. I'm talking about quitting for no reason. I'm talking about, you should quit things like drugs, right? What you shouldn't quit is your dreams,
True,
right?
indeed.
What you shouldn't quit is providing for your family.
True.
We shouldn't
And-
quit as
yeah.
benefiting yourself, or excuse me, improving yourself for the betterment of your entire community.
Yeah.
When I see that, I look at people and I go, but you're not done yet.
Not done yet.
There's no, you might have to pivot, right? Maybe it's not helping 1,000 people. Maybe it's helping one. Maybe it's not, your family's not living in a 3,000 square foot home. Maybe it's 1,500 and paid for, right? I don't know what it is for you, but if you stop, if you quit, I have empathy for that because I've been there and I know how tough it is.
Understand. Right.
But whether you're no matter what you're dealing with, if you've got a strong enough, you started that for a reason. There was something strong enough about it that you were willing to risk something.
That's right.
Your personal credibility, your money, your time. Giving up time with friends and family is not easy. Giving up that football game, I don't take that lightly.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's your thing that brings you joy and happiness,
Joy.
releases serotonin in your brain. You gave that up on a Sunday to go study for school, and now you want to quit? You already gave that up. That's lost. That's sunk cost. It's gone. Now you want to quit? You're not done yet.
You're not done yet.
Get up.
Not done yet.
And it doesn't have to be, I got to go finish the book tonight. Read one more page.
One more page.
One paragraph.
That's
Right. Right.
You're not done yet.
yet.
And that's man, I've never shared that with people, but that for me is the rallying cry for discipline. Not driven, but definitely discipline.
You're not done yet.
And it gets rid of procrastination. Back to the original point. We went down a deep hole on that one.
Yeah.
But
And no, that
you want
was
to procrastinate?
perfect. That
Okay.
was perfect. That was
Well said.
perfect. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Honestly, man, I wanted to, just before because we probably getting ready to wrap
We
up.
still
anyway.
going.
We good?
Yeah, okay, I'm good.
Cool.
I
All
called in.
right. So basically, with regards to what you mentioned about being praised, the reason I believe in praising each other, especially brothers that's doing stuff that is honorable in my opinion. Or when I say honorable, it's a wide scale. You know what I'm saying? You could have been honorable at Popeyes, to be honest with you. It's just the way that you
And I
carry
was.
yourself.
I was, by the way. I loved working at Popeye.
No.
You got a free meal, bro.
I can't
Come
believe
on
it.
now.
No.
Come on
You
now.
worked at Popeyes at?
Oh, yes, sir.
Nah, man. Only for like a week or something, right?
I worked for a week, made $310, bought my first lawnmower, turned it into a business. Yes, sir.
Damn.
But
Hey,
I
that's
worked
what you
there,
do.
and it was
That's
amazing.
what you do.
Man,
Love
that's
that.
crazy,
Stone.
man.
It's a stepping
Yeah,
stone.
it's a
So what I'm
stepping
saying-
stone. That's right.
What it is
Worked at Popeyes.
True story, man.
Hey, yo, shout out to the
Popeyes.
chicken sandwich,
Hey,
man.
hey.
I don't know if y'all had that chicken sandwich. Hash, I had
Now
it.
go ahead.
Hey, we're
Go ahead.
trying to get
Talk about
sponsored
it.
up
No,
in here.
I'm not trying to.
What's up?
No, I'm just saying, this ain't no plug-in for Popeyes,
right.
But damn. Okay. Okay.
Watch a bunch of coupons show up on there. They'll find you.
Hey, for the record, bro, I'm a little nervous to fool with that sandwich now because if this sandwich have Negroes dragging,
You were talking about this earlier.
people are out the orders,
Yo, I had
the
this.
order window.
I had the
Beef
spicy
roast
chicken
up.
sandwich, man. I wanted to go in there and kiss the cook, man. Like
Wow.
that stuff was good. It was better
Hey.
than Chick-fil-A. It's just a chicken sandwich. Like ain't nothing special. It ain't gonna make you like want to change your whole life.
Oh,
and stuff
it's making
and go
people
monk,
want to do
but
a lot.
It's the best chicken sandwich out there on
Say,
the market right now.
I ain't gonna lie, I had the chicken sandwich a while back, right?
Yeah.
But I have a slight feeling that they done put some Primo in this sandwich or something, dog.
They laced us.
It's gotta be.
They laced it with
Gotta
something
be.
because and we don't want to get into Popeyes. This is not what this is
Yeah,
about.
that's not what
but-
this is about.
Just a little comedic break, real quick. You know what I mean?
feel me?
Yo,
You
Anthony-
take
But I'm
attention
just
on.
saying it is good chicken. Right? Let's-
Yeah,
We're
anyway.
gonna take his word for it. I don't believe him, but we're gonna take his word for it.
Yeah, but you know what? 2.3 million in 1 week. Shout out to Popeyes, man, hands down. But anyway, any chicken sandwich that's gonna make me wanna cluck like a chicken beat up the clerk at the drive-thru and shoot a video in the same night, I think that sandwich, you need to pay attention to the ingredients in that mug. You feel me?
This guy, man.
I believe in uplifting men, because I don't think there's enough of it. You know, it's not saying that we're into self-praise here, but I think we do way more criticizing and pulling down and, just negative kind of outlook. You see a dude make some progression, he looks like he's living decent, he got a decent relationship, and you instantly think that was just handed to him, or he just got that just because he was nice looking.
Word. That's very true.
And didn't pay attention to the fact that there was some sort of work ethic, some sort of discipline, some sort of structure towards success. And I think not enough uplifting goes on. That's one thing I pride the show on. You know what I'm saying? We uplift brothers here, man, with a clean heart. It has nothing to do with anything else but the fact that it would make you feel more encouraged to keep doing what you're doing with words of encouragement than sit around critiquing you about how you didn't do this way.
Ain't nothing wrong with a critique, though. Sometimes you need a critique,
But I'm saying when the critique outweighs the upliftment, it's a problem.
That's right.
And it's a problem. And I really I think that it was honorable to be able to be across the table with Anthony tonight.
Yeah.
And just to allow him to share his story, you know what I'm saying? Real quick, I wanted to go into, me and Anthony actually share a library. I didn't get to look into his
come on with it, yeah.
But he seemed like he got an epic library. And the reason why I'm big on library and because reading, I think reading is a life changer because it was through reading that I elevated in my character, you know what I'm saying, as a person. And the way I think, the way I speak was affected by reading, you know what I'm saying. So I want him to share the book that he's reading right now. You know
man. So I gotta do it. First of all, I'm gonna get with this dude. One way or another.
Right.
I'm gonna be backstage. Right. This dude's gonna introduce me as his protege. All right.
Right.
I got a lot of heart and a quick shout out for 10X by Grant Cardone.
Powerful book.
Now, before I get into that, what set the stage for 10X was David Goggins' "You Can't Hurt Me." Okay. David Goggins is a Navy SEAL. He was physically abused by his father as a child. He's very open and transparent about that. And he went on to be a Navy SEAL. Now, he didn't know how to swim. Well, actually, I think he did know how to swim. He just was afraid of the water or didn't do well in water because of his body type. So don't let me glorify the story too much. But he set the stage with this: callous your mind, be accountable to your actions. If you're going to do something, go do it. That whole nine. Don't allow external things to change you, okay? He tells a great story about being at the bottom of the pool doing knot tying exercises underwater or whatever, and the instructor is giving him, who also doesn't have breathing apparatus, right? He's down there with them, but the instructor hasn't been trying to float and do all this other stuff, right? He's living in Disneyland. And at some point, David Goggins got tired of this guy's mess of giving him the thumbs up slowly. Yeah. So David Goggins started tying the knots slowly because David Goggins decided that he was going to outlast the instructor. One of us is going to die down here if you keep doing this, and I'm okay if it's me, right? That's not his words, but that's his approach, right? He's like, you're not going to hurt me, all right? This is how it's going to go down. So that set the stage for Grant Cardone. So I'm already fired up. I'm jazzed, right? And David Goggins' friend and publisher reads, I think it's his editor maybe, reads the book, right? And David Goggins has when you hear him talk, he's a powerful motivational guy, but he's also dyslexic. In Grant Cardone's case, credit to both guys, he reads the book. And Grant Cardone is a Southern gentleman with the full draw, and when he gets fired up, you feel it. It's his words. And what Grant Cardone basically proposes is that whatever you're doing, times it by 10. You're not doing enough. Stop babying your goals and your dreams.
Basically.
And what he really pushes is that you have a duty, a right, and a responsibility. A duty, obligation, and a responsibility to success. Anything you do that doesn't push you towards success for your family, for your community, for yourself, goes against your duty, your responsibility, and your obligation. Okay? That resonated with me for two reasons. First of all, a lot of people don't understand 10X. David really set up the stage for how to go above and beyond with, he's a ultra marathoner. He runs 100 miles for fun, right? Just to prove his point. You see what I'm saying? And he did so without training on the first one, almost died, right? So he set the stage for you're not tired. All right, you just think you're tired. In comes Grant Cardone, and he's like, hey, not only are you not tired, but get after it. This is not something we do for fun. This is not something just because, right? We're not in the military. You do it because you're supposed to.
Right.
So you got this setup, and with both of those books, again, You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins' great book, 10X by Grant Cardone, you combine to this no holds barred, stop making excuses, stand in front of the accountability mirror and tell yourself with some integrity why you couldn't do it today, right? And what I've found is that you normally can't. You can't explain why you needed to eat that cheeseburger.
Really?
You normally can't explain why you couldn't read that extra chapter in that book for class. You normally, if you're being honest with yourself, you can't explain a lot of the things that you say, that the story you make up on your head on why you can't.
Why you can't. It's so easy to come up with 10 why you can't and 1 why you can't.
Oh, it's so easy.
So
That's the key word right there. Easy.
Excuses are easy.
It's easy for me to sit in this chair right now and say, man, I would, but.
Right.
Right? It's hard to go,
It's hard.
all right, I've got this obstacle. How do I remove the but? I would, period. I will. Sorry, I get five. I got
good.
Grant Cardone's voice in the back of my head right now.
That's good. This is the Men of Honor podcast, and it is geared towards men. I want to ask you to define, in your opinion, in your view, what the ideal man is. What should a man strive to be? What is a man?
All right. If this doesn't work, we're gonna cut it because I'd like to be able to. I'd like to be able to send this to my father. I'd be like, "Did I nail it? Right? All right." That's probably the answer right there. So, when I was a kid, I was in trouble all the time. Obviously, we already talked about that, and we were sitting there one day, and the way my dad lectured us, it was never like him sitting down and us standing. It was always him standing and us sitting down. Yeah. So it wasn't bad enough that he was 6'6" and I was 5'3", but I was sitting down looking up at 6'6", neck hurting in the whole nine. And one day he gave me the typical speech, and I said, and my reply was, well, everybody else was doing it. And I don't know, I think maybe he was just tired that day or whatever it was, but I'd never seen him not defeated, exasperated. Like he was just worn out. And you saw the shoulders drop and, the whole nine. And he looked at me and he said, well, you're my son. If everybody else is doing the wrong thing, you be the one person doing the right thing. I know for a fact he didn't think about it. Sorry. I know he didn't think about it much at the time.
Right.
But that really stuck with me.
Right.
Because I'd always been picked on for my size. I got kicked out of England, right? I'd always been kind of separated from the pack.
Right.
It had never occurred, so I'd always wanted to be one of the pack. Yeah. It never occurred to me that it was okay to be different. Mm-hmm. So I could go on and on about integrity and responsibilities, but I think all that's wrapped up into this idea that as a man, your ability to, no matter what, be the one person that does the right thing we're taught, and I don't know if this is true, but we're taught that organizationally, women operate in packs, men operate as individuals. Now that may just be the way we've set up our society, and they're forced into it.
Yeah.
But there may be some truth to that in who we are in nature. You know, wolves, the alpha is at the back by himself in case the herd gets attacked from the back. He himself will turn and face the fight. Lions are similar the same way. Not to lean too heavily on the animal kingdom or statistics on how groups operate, but to be able, as a human being on this earth, specifically a man, to do what needs to be done regardless of the headwinds or popularity or whatever else it is, you be the one has defined me as a man. And it's led me to the point I am right now. So I'm happy to say that I don't drink. Nothing against drinking.
Right.
But I decided that regardless of what my friends were doing, I couldn't be the Anthony Shaw I wanted to be drunk. Right. I could only do it sober. And that's difficult sometimes.
Right.
You know, the list goes on and on of decisions that I've made that I would love to take credit for, but it started with that one phrase, you be the one. And it's on the back of my Duke ring. I got it inscribed right below my name.
Yeah.
It was my dad's license plate for the longest, because once he found out that was the story, you know, he ate that up. Oh, I'm the reason why this boy made it out. And, you know, the coolest part about that story is obviously, you know, I shouldn't have gotten into college. And I wrote the letter, you know, you have to write 2 little letters or whatever. And, you know, everybody writes one about their family, right? My parents gave me good values. So I wrote my good values letter. And my last paragraph went something like this. It said, your statistics, because they publish this every year for every university, your statistics say that you accept 0.2 of a person with my GPA. Now, I'm going to round up just 0.2 of a person. So 0.2% have below a 2.0 GPA. Right. I don't even know how you get that, but that's I said, oh, I know. So I said, based on the demographics, it means you allow 2 people in your university per year with my GPA. I said, I don't know who that person is, and quite frankly, I don't care. Right. But as you can tell by the rest of the story, my father taught me that no matter what anybody else does, to be the one. And I don't care if the 4.0 graduates or the other 1.9 kid graduates. You have my word that if anybody graduates from this class, I will be the one. Anyway, when I got accepted, I went to the counselor's office and they said, yep, we shared that letter throughout the entire school. So I gotta believe that moment of a father trying to raise a man led to exactly what I would define as a man today. I hope that answers your question.
Well said, man.
One final question for me. One final question. It's my last question.
We're good, man. You're dropping bombs over there. I'm just cleaning up the mess.
Because I know it's late, you know, and everybody has, you know, their personal things to take care of. 50 years from now, what do you want the world to remember about Anthony Shaw?
Man, this is going to be a cliche answer. I apologize. You ready for this?
Ready, 100.
Excuse my language. Absolutely fucking nothing.
Right. True.
This was never about me.
Right.
I don't want it to be about me.
Right.
I want to get in. I want to do what I was called to do.
True.
And then I want to hand it over.
True.
Pro Generation Energy does not have my name on it.
Right.
I could have called it Shaw Energy or whatever.
Yeah.
I started off the company and I listed myself as a manager. Right? And as I hit certain targets, I moved my little title up. It was never about that for me. 50 years from now, God willing that I'm still hanging around, whether I'm sitting on a beach or some cabin or whatever it is. I would hope that I would still be in the community helping folks, right? Because I believe that that's what you do as you hit old age. You try to impart as much. But I don't want it to be, Warren Buffett's doing the same thing. If I understand correctly, he has every one of his dollars goes towards philanthropy when he goes. His children, I'm sure he's already set aside and taken care of them, so they're good. He's obviously a whiz with taxes and whatnot. But at the end of the day, for Warren Buffett, he didn't do it. He hated his plane until he got it. He didn't do it for the plane. He didn't do it. He did it because he could. He was given a set of talents. He went and applied them to the best of his ability for as long as he has. He's been wildly successful. He still eats at McDonald's every morning, drives the same raggedy vehicle. To me, when I look at what success is and where I'm at in 50 years, if there is a corporation known as Pro Generation Energy that's got, 300,000 people or 3 people, as long as it's fulfilling the mission, maybe it doesn't exist anymore. Maybe we got bought out by another company and those funds went towards suicide awareness prevention, and that organization that we give those funds to goes on to do great things. None of that matters to me as long as I can go to bed at night knowing that I gave everything I had to my family, my community, and lastly, but I think just as important for people out there to hear, not only for all those external things, but also for myself. Because at the end of the day, I know what I'm able to accomplish. And if I don't live up to that, I don't want to live with that regret. So that's 50 years from now for me.
Well said. Man, I agree with you. I always take myself out of the equation.
That's right.
It's not about me. It's not about me, a competition, or it's just about using the gift God gave you and applying it towards giving back in some sort of way. You know what I'm saying? It's really never about how much camera time you get or who's looking at you. You kind of want your gifts or your giving to be in secret, and in return, your reward is in open.
Preach.
God rewards you openly.
Preach.
So,
yes, sir.
I'm with that 1,000%, man. And I really appreciate the time that you guys took to share the table with us. I think it was honorable. You know what I'm saying? I think it was a grand last 2 hours.
Hey,
You know what I'm saying?
it flew by.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't mind me repaying the compliments, obviously honored to be here.
Yeah.
To be asked to come here, especially considering it's Men of Honor.
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully live up to that, but just to be asked was such a privilege. And obviously with these things, it's always a question. Well, am I really going to go do this?
Yeah.
And for me, the way that you talk about your family and specifically your children, raising your son, to be able to sit here and share thoughts and hear your thoughts and whatnot, and the questions that are being dropped off with the thoughts. It's before I even came in here, I knew it was going to be a good night because of the ingredients that were coming together.
Yes.
And I'm thankful for you even having this show.
Yes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But specifically inviting me, I'm humbled. Thank you.
Man, it was a pleasure. Ken, you got something to say, brother?
No, I just want to say, Anthony, it was a great pleasure sitting across from you, and always a pleasure sitting across from Hash. I've learned an extreme amount of information just hearing you talk. And and I want you to know that information is going to be applied and it's going to be life changing. And again, every show I try to do, and I want to thank Hash, for creating this opportunity for not only myself to be able to hear a man like Anthony speak, but for the whole world. Anybody listening to be able to gain this valuable knowledge and hear Anthony's story is very important and inspirational. And we all can learn from each other,
True.
And
absolutely.
I just want to pay homage to Hash for putting this platform up available
So
for
good.
the world to hear and see.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Man, I'm thankful. I shout out to Skrilla, you know what I mean? Shout out to Darius for being with us, you know what I'm saying? We couldn't do it without them. They allowed us the platform, and together we can make this happen. So before we close, real quick, as you guys know, the book that we are suggesting that you guys go download, go purchase, the next time you get an opportunity is the 10X Rule. Agree?
Hey, do it. Do it.
The
You will
10X
not
Rule.
regret it.
The 10X Rule. And it is, let me see real quick. The only difference between success and failure. The 10X Grant Cardone Rule. Phenomenal book. I started it. I didn't get to finish it, but I started it. I think I am now on the sixth chapter. Yeah,
You mind if I drop something on that real quick?
Go ahead.
That book was so, it got me so fired up. I was listening to it while lifting weights. Like it replaced my lifting weight track.
Music. Yeah.
All right?
Damn.
Like,
No music, no beats?
Hey, no.
Damn.
Hey,
Wow, okay.
hey, don't turn it on unless you're ready. All right?
man.
You better be ready.
If you're holding a weapon, put it down.
Sorry, Ash.
No, you good, man. What was this? It was a saying that you mentioned, just one saying that Grant Cardone mentioned in his book. I think you mentioned it earlier.
Duty, obligation, and responsibility. Success is your duty, obligation, and responsibility. And if I mess that up, Grant, forgive me.
Nah, it's okay.
I gotta have at least 2 out of 3.
You're
It's test
not
time.
going to meet him if it's wrong.
That's right. Get that dude out of here.
Nah, it's all good. Nah, I appreciate y'all. Like I always say, people, we can sit around and talk garbage all day, but why not put some honor on it? You know what I'm saying? And that's basically what we're here for. We're gonna wrap this up for now. You know, I just want to say thank you to everybody that was tuned in and that took the time to sit with us. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot that I've learned, but I'm sure there's other people that could learn from this as well. You know what I'm saying? Anthony is a perfect example. And also, we're not implying that you have to be perfect. I mean, to be honorable. You do not have to be perfect to be honored. Matter of fact, I need you with as many flaws as possible right off the muscle. You know what I'm saying? And I think what you do with your flaws and, you know, your downfalls is what makes you honorable. So, for all the young brothers listening, man, this is not about perfection. We go through the same thing. What I want to empower is some form of upliftment. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate y'all. You guys continue to have a productive week. Continue to invest your time into your dream. And as closing, the 10X rule is, one more time, Anthony.
It is your duty, obligation, and responsibility to be successful.
Your duty, obligation, and responsibility to be successful. You guys have a good night, man. Much love. Peace.